Hello everyone, my name is Sagar Chahar and I have secured All India rank of 437 in UPSC Civil Services Examination 2017. This was my fourth attempt in 2017 and I finally got into the main list. I have been allocated Indian Railway Traffic Service. So I'm a medical graduate. So over the courses of my 4 attempts, I committed many mistakes. I didn't prepare in a particular direction. So I wanted to share my experiences with you. But in the initial part, I would want to convey that there is no particular one strategy that everybody follows, has their own strategy and their own method of preparation. But in all of those things, you will find one thing common, that you have to put study hours regularly. Not for 1 day, 2 day, 1 week, 2 week, but a regular stretch of 1 year, 1.5 years, 2 years. So when I started preparation in 2014, I was entirely new to the subjects of the civil services examination. I had not studied after class 10th the subjects like history, polity, geography. So I had to start from scratch. So what I did, I had to enroll in a particular coaching to get a orientation of the syllabus and to complete it in a definitive time. However, that was the first step one has to go through to know the subjects and prepare your foundations. So what I did there was, for every important subjects, namely history, and that too modern history, art and culture, geography, polity, economy, science and technology, environment, I had my particular written notes which I had compiled from the coaching and the various other sources which is known by everyone. So I had compiled them, written in my own words, and I used to revise them a lot. I used to again and again revise it. But when in my first attempt, when I got through prelims, I couldn't clear mains. The mark sheet which showed that I was short by 6 marks due to very less marks which I got in GS4, that is ethics in mains. Then in the next attempt in 2016, I tried to improve on ethics part, and I put disproportionately extra time on general studies, and that's why I could not devote much time on optionals, due to which I got less marks in optional, and that's why I could not clear in 2016. So after all these things in 2017, I learned one thing, that you cannot focus single-handedly on a particular subject. You have to equally focus on all the subjects of the examination. You can't just focus on a particular subject. You might be strong in a particular subject, but you can't afford to be weak in any of the subject in the syllabus. You have to know everything in the syllabus in either 300 words, 400 words. But you cannot afford to be totally unknown in a particular subject. So what I did in 2015 onwards in general studies, I used to study whatever I got in general studies, in any magazine and anything, whatever I used to get, I used to study a lot, and that led to a less time for revision. This was very essential that you revise. So first mistake which I did was I didn't revise properly. So I would recommend everyone that you have to stick on to revision. I had my basic subjects covered. I revised my basic subject, but that was not enough to get a good marks in general studies to get a good rank. So I would recommend that everybody should have their foundational concepts cleared in these basic subjects, and then focus on a definitive extra added material whichever you want, but revise it again and again. The other thing which I did differently in 2017 and which I didn't do in 2015-16 was that I focused on what is being asked. In the previous attempts, I used to write whatever I knew about the question. As this tendency develops in the university exams to get marks to pass the examination, you write whatever you know about that particular aspect. But in a competitive cutthroat competition like UPSC civil service examination, you can't write whatever you know about that. You have to stick to whatever has been asked. So the keywords in these questions are important. You will have 3-4 keywords in every question from where themes are to be selected, and then certain words like discuss, elaborate, elucidate, critically evaluate, they have their different meanings. You have to focus on that. For example, if I say critically evaluate, you literally have to critically evaluate. You have to think on a different dimension to what the statement proposes or what the theme of the question is. The other aspect which I learnt is this exam is a long marathon. You have to sustain your preparation over a long time. Like 8 hours on an average per day for a sustained period of time would get you that strong grasp to clear this examination. So this was my third aspect, that you have to put extra time. Next aspect which I realized across my attempts was that the importance of newspapers. It cannot be undermined that newspaper is one important source for this examination, both in all the stages of the examination, I would say, in prelims, mains as well as interview. Mains and interview, the importance of newspaper on the higher side, because it helps you build opinion, and based on that you write your answer or convey your arguments to the interview board. So I would suggest that reading newspaper should not be, it cannot be compensated by any other source. I would give you a few reasons for that. Newspaper, when you read, first of all, you get to know a different angle to a particular problem which you wouldn't have thought about it. Second, it builds up your vocabulary, builds up your framing of sentences, which is very essential in the mains aspect. Also, it helps you in a multi-dimensional thinking. You can't just, in this examination, you can't just think in silos and attempt the answer. You have to develop a multi-dimensional thinking, interlink concepts and all. Newspaper is an essential source which will be an initial guiding point to that. So what I did initially in my attempts, I used to make paper notes. I used to write on the newspaper, my registers, whatever the newspaper notes. But after a while, I've considered it futile because updating those notes was very difficult. So what I did, I shifted on digital notes. Application like Evernote was very helpful to me. I used to write my notes, theme-wise notes, and I used to compile all of them. And I made a consolidated note. Like for health, I made a consolidated note on health. All the issues related to health I covered in that. Education, consolidated on that. Next, which I learned was practice. For prelims, mains, interview, all these stages require you to practice. Prelims, you would have to practice multiple choice questions, various test series. Otherwise, you will not get the grasp of what is being asked in the preliminary examination, and invariably you would make mistakes. Mains, the answer writing practice teaches you a lot. First thing, it teaches you that how much you can recollect whatever you have studied. Second, how comprehensively you can think. Third, there would be few questions in a particular mains practice papers that you would have heard for the first time, and how you build up an answer there is an art which you learn by writing. Next aspect is completing the paper. Paper completion is an essential goal to this examination. If you know few questions, and you leave those questions due to paucity of time, I'm afraid to say that you will lose out on the competitive marks and on your selections to the interview stage. So answer writing practice is a must. Sixth is, it is outside the preparation gambit, but you need to have a peer group or a group with which you can talk and have alternate thoughts or opinions on a particular subject. It should not be irrelevant to the syllabus. So you get a bird's eye view about that particular aspect. So develop a peer group, understanding about the various aspects of a particular subject, getting a different opinion. That counts a lot, because you think in a unidirectional way, and even newspaper can't cover all the aspects of a particular argument. Next, I would say, which I learnt over the course of my preparation, was that you have to have a emotional support, because this is a very long examination. The examination process takes 1 year and you have to build your concepts for 1 year. So invariably 2 years you have to require for getting a good rank. So emotional support is very important in this examinations. Next, which I didn't consider initial part, but in 2017 I thought that this played a good part, that physical exercise and fitness was important. Otherwise I used to remain indoors and not used to walk or go around, but in my selection attempt I used to go out for half an hour, 10 minutes. That is enough, but you have to have a physical exercise. So now I would talk about what the strategy I took for mains, and how differently I focused on ethics. I will give a general overview of all the GS subjects, but I'll focus on ethics. So mains, as you know, is an important part of this examination, and the marks you score tells that you are going into the final list or not. So in mains there is essay, then you have general studies 1, general studies 2, general studies 3, general studies 4, and your 2 optionals. These are all merit based examinations. So in essay, the thing which I did was, in essay you will get enough time to collect your thoughts, because there is no paucity of time. So you can take 10-15 minutes to think about the 2 topics which you are getting, make a structure of that essay in a rough sheet provided, and think from a multi-dimensional aspect. What I used to do, I used to think from the different ministries, like Ministry of Home Affairs talks about the language, union territories, federal relations. So these were the pinpointed aspects. Then I thought about a particular Ministry of HRD. Then Ministry of HRD talks about primary education, secondary education, higher education. So these were my pinpointed aspects which would guide me what I should write on these different dimensions. So you can develop your own thinking process. Now then we have, if we should use quotations or not. See, that depends on person to person. It's a good way to initiate with a data reference or a quotation, then you get a flow. In between you can use a quotation, or you can, if you don't remember, you can use any current affair example, but it is a very good starting point. Also, one thing I have noticed over the essays I have written or the practice I have done, historical aspects should be covered in the initial parts, and then you should go to the particular thing which you want to discuss. Now next I'll discuss about GS1. GS1 comprises of history, that includes art and culture, modern history, world history. Then we have society related questions. Then we have geography related questions. But the syllabus is defined, but there is a fluidity of questions. Some question which you expect would come in GS3 comes in GS1. This is a fluidity. But what I'll say is that in history portion, think in a comprehensive manner, like evaluate the facts of the history. You can read from any source, or you can use your own critical thinking about that evaluation and get an understanding about that particular event. So for non-cooperation movement, think about the Chauri Chaur incident, how it affected the future movements to be non-violent, or how it ingrained the principles of non-violence in India, which is trying to be portrayed even now. So think in these aspects, evaluate on your own, make your own opinions. Otherwise, there are few questions which you will be able to attempt them. Sociology related question you can attempt by reading the current affairs and all, and having a broad understanding of the Indian society, which will help you. One thing I would suggest in GS1 is use many current affair examples. Whatever in news you get, or any other example of history, use it in these examples. Then we'll move to GS2. GS2 focuses on polity, governance, international relations. So polity related questions, you have to focus on the static part which is given in Lakshmikant book for polity. That is the basic thing you have to go. You have to memorize fundamental rights by their article numbers, directive principle of state policy by their article numbers, and all the relevant constitutional articles by their article numbers. That you have to quote in the exam. It's very important to do that. Next is the judgments, Supreme Court judgments. You have to know the Supreme Court judgments, important judgment like case 1 and the Bharti judgment. You have to know what it propounded. So you have to utilize those judgments. It is coming in current affairs. So you have to know and quote them in the answers. Then reports of for center-state relation, Sarkaria Commission report, Punchi Commission report, Law Commission reports, Parliamentary Standing Committee reports, second ARC reports. You need not read each reports from cover to cover, but you have to know the recommendation and the rationale behind that recommendation. So learning the polity aspects is it is considered to be difficult, and you need multiple revision. But if you strike the rationale of a particular law or a particular article in constitution, it will be easier for you to memorize. Then the international relations, you have to, what I did was categorized India's relations according to regions. Ministry of External Affairs also categorizes the India's relations according to divisions, Latin American division, West Asian division, American division, Chinese division. So in that manner I made my notes: India-China relations, India-West Asia relations, South Asia relations, India and ASEAN relations, India and USA relations. So you can also categorize that, all the major things, themes and the opinions which you can get on website, articles. That would be crucial, because international relation you will invariably get 3 or 4 questions, and you can think comprehensively and you can attempt those questions and fetch more marks. Next is the GS3, which involves science and technology, agriculture, economy and internal security. So economy is a must, because economy is needed in prelims also, so you have to know the economy. But agriculture related questions are also increasing, and environment, climate change related questions are also increasing. So you have to have a broad understanding about these issues and interlink all these issues. This is important. GS3 issues can be interlinked with polity, society and amongst themselves. So like climate change has reasons from the way of life that has been developed, comfort life, high greenhouse gas emission per person. So you can use the what is the political framework that would be needed, and then what is the economics behind the climate change, and then this science and technology related solution for tackling the climate change. So you comprehensively you have tackled and interlinked all the aspects. So internal security also, there are particular portions in the syllabus and you have to find particular issues on those subjects and make your 300-400 words notes on those, like borders is security and all. So these issues you can make notes on. Then GS4. So what I didn't get through due to ethics in 2015, and then I tried to focus on ethics for 2016 attempt. So what extra I did? First of all, syllabus is the principle for GS4. The terms given in the syllabus, you have to know it. So you have to understand the meaning of each and every aspect of the syllabus. You have to understand it from any book, Wikipedia, internet sources, or any coaching material. You have to know that. Stick to one source, just revise that source again and again. So one thing which I did is maintain a diary and write those current affairs examples in those diary. So I used to, whatever came in the newspaper, I used to write it down, which is relevant from current affairs, which is relevant for ethics and the particular themes in the paper A, and I used to write it down, and then I used to revise before going into the examination, and then whatever I used to recollect, I used to write it down. So these things will important aspect of this ethics examination. In ethics examination, you have to make the examiner understand what you understand by particular quotation, particular term, particular word, and with the current affairs examples, you have to further make the examiner understand that you know this particular concept and you will definitely utilize this concept in your career as a civil servant. There was a question on anger management in ethics. So anger management question, you will never study from any particular source anywhere, and in daily life you encounter situation with people getting angry and what negative things anger does. So you have to think in that aspect, how can you elevate the situation of anger from a person, and that person manages the anger and does not take wrong decisions due to that. So you have to think from current affairs, any example wherever you got that current affairs, any sessions conducted for meditation which is helping in anger management, you can quote those examples directly. This will definitely get you more marks. The second part of this ethics portion is if you'll see the syllabus, it is divided in the philosophical aspect, the psychological aspect, the administrative aspect. The administrative aspect, if you read, more or less chunk is focused on corruption and how to eliminate corruption and how to ensure integrity, conflict of interest minimalization and honesty. These themes will predominate there. Empathy, compassion, these themes will predominate. So there is a report of ARC, second ARC on ethics in governance. You can read it from cover to cover and it will definitely be of benefit in ethics. And then philosophically, you can think about thinkers, because philosophy guides you for a particular decision. It gives a rationale to why this world exists like this. There will be conflicting philosophies, but here it is the best thing for you. You need not adapt a particular philosophy. See, question by question you can utilize a particular philosophy and prove yourself. So this is one aspect, and these psychological aspects, the terms are relevant and you have to find examples. For example, in administrative aspect of ethics, if you find the civil servants doing exceptional jobs across India coming in newspapers, you can quote those and say that these things are done and how, which aspect of ethics has been focused on that particular event. You can utilize those in your final answers. Now we come to the another aspect of ethics paper is the case studies. So case study is a very difficult aspect, I would say. There will be few questions which would directly seek your recommendation of particular issue. There would be a situation in the case study where you would be put in a particular situation and ask how would you react to that situation, what would be your ethical dilemmas. So first of all, read the case study, underline the key concepts, key words or key concept or key themes on the case study, and then see what are the dilemmas involved and all. There will be questions following it. Some questions are very open-ended, in which they give you how will you tackle this situation, and some give you alternatives and you have to evaluate alternatives and then seek a particular alternative. You have to read the copies of the previous year toppers, which is available online, and I was fortunate to read those copies. And then you see that they have tried to give practical solutions to a problem in the case study. So you have to also focus that you have to give a solution, you can't escape that situation, and you have to give a solution which can be implemented. Like controlling a riot, you can't escape that decision making, you have to give a particular solution, but that solution should be legally feasible, economically feasible, and it should be in a time bound manner based on the requirement of the case study. It has to be, these things has to be focused on while writing the case studies. Other aspect which I did was, whenever you study something, you get some out of the box type of solution. So those things help you gain marks or extra half 1 mark over others. So in the ethics paper, if you see overall, you have to complete the biggest problem is completing the paper, because you invariably tend to write more and the time becomes short, and invariably you are short of 2-3 questions. So what I did personally, that I focused on writing the case study in 1 hour 10 minutes, 1 hour 20 minutes, finish those case studies and then move to section A, and then continuously write and give around the rest of the time to those. But I didn't involve myself in a particular question, like certain quotations are given and you take a time, avoid those questions, or at that time go to other questions, complete them, come back. You cannot afford to waste a single second in all the GS examination and optional examination, but ethics is a special one where even each second counts here. Otherwise, there is high chances that paper you will be leaving few questions in the end of the paper, and that will be very difficult. You are leaving some competitive marks and you will lose on your rank or final selection in the list. In case study, I would like to add that whatever situation you are given, think like a particular person. So what I did differently, I used to read the biographies of ex-civil servants, autobiographies who have retired, and they would have countered some case studies there, the particular situation and how did they react comprehensively. These things I learned from there. For example, I read Unfinished Innings, a book by bureaucrat Madhav Godbole. It was very good, nicely written, and there were few situations in which the concerned bureaucrat was stuck and he tried to solve those problems. Another aspect which will be very key to ethics is memorizing the Constitution of India, starting from the preamble to directive principles of state policy or the relevant constitutional provisions or law or civil services conduct rules. This will help you to prove your statement, whatever argument you are giving, to give a proper backing to it, you will require these things and you can prove your point in that. So this aspect I focused on. In 2015 I used to avoid writing ethics test series in ethics questions and all. I used to like, I would do it in the end, but no. This you should practice ethics and try to complete ethics paper in 3 hours. Put a stopwatch in front of you. Paper B, section B, case studies. Try to complete it in 1 hour 10 minutes, 1 hour 15 minutes, 1 hour 20 minutes. Another thing you have to see in ethics is the ethics exam is all about you. You need not copy someone else's things and everything. The examiner there wants to know what are your thoughts on a particular topic. So accordingly try to build your opinion, thoughts, and accordingly think in that manner. Then your personality will dictate you in your mind while writing the answers, and then it will be easy, you can prove those arguments. So finally I would say the few points in ethics you have to think on. First, complete the paper on time. Do the paper part B portion in 1 hour 15 minutes. Rest devote to the part A. Use current affair example, historical examples to prove your point, prove your argument. Use legal principles to prove your point. Think as a administrator, bureaucrat, civil servant in the particular case studies, or if you are given whatever situation you are given, put yourself in those shoes and think like that. Practice hard, practice for case studies. There is no second route to success for ethics other than practicing. Practice will gain you that extra edge. So optional is the other aspect. My optional was medical science. Optional is an important part of this examination. Never think that without scoring in optional, you on the basis of general studies marks you will get into the list. That will never happen. I don't know about all the optionals, I can tell about mine, but optional you have to study as an expert. Here you can afford to be journalists in the GS exam, but for optional you have to have an expert thinking and write in an expert manner. So this was the approach for ethics and overall mains portion. And now in 2018 you got a gap of 7 days between the examinations. I would say it's it's of use for different person differently. Some person will think that it's beneficial, someone won't, but you have to make your have to have a concentration to be maintained across the 7-8 days. You can't afford to be lax during that time. Previously in 2015, 16, 17, exam used to get over in 5 days, but now the span has increased between these. You have to maintain your concentration levels. You can't afford to. Also talk to people, and I would like this platform to share that the feeling you get after giving mains, that I am through. Everybody thinks that I am through, because it's very subjective. You think you have written the answer and all. I would say enjoy that moment and take 15 days off completely from your books, everything. Go around in India, it's a beautiful country. Go around to places if you want. Spend time with family or any hobby you have. Build up your hobbies, whatever you have mentioned in DAF. Practice on those hobbies, but just live your life for 15 days to 1 month. That is very essential, and it will fill you with all the positive energy that will be required in the interview stage. So I think whatever I said would be of use to you, and I would give my best wishes to all those aspirants and everybody who wants to be a civil servant, and think positively. You have it in you. You will definitely clear this examination. It is not out of reach. You can clear this exam, and you will clear this examination. Have that determination. Just prepare in a particular smart and in a smart manner and put a lot of hard work, and definitely you will clear this examination. All the best too.